Tonight on College Press Box,
we will address the struggles of Longhorn football.
Texas volleyball begins to dominate in Big 12 play.
And former Longhorn Jordan Spieth continues to make history.
This is College Press Box.
ISO.
Welcome, folks, to the 40 Acres favorite sports show, College Press Box. Alongside of me, I have my co-host, the one and only Matt Adams. Matt, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Trying to get over some tough losses this weekend, Kat.
I'm feeling it too, but let's get started talking about Texas sports. And first, we're going to go into the lights for the OSU game. So, want to go into those, Matt?
Yeah, that's right. Saturday afternoon was a wild one at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium. Despite some positives and the swag from the freshmen, penalties and mistakes went on to hurt the Longhorns. Let's take a look at the highlights and see what went down. And in the Longhorns' first Big 12 game, Mason Rudolph and the Oklahoma State come out and slinging on their first drive, going up 7-0 on their first drive. Coming up here, Gerard Hurd bounces back with a nice deep ball to Marcus Johnson in his first game back for the season. Coming up here, we set up for Nick Rose his field goal to cut the lead 7-3. And of course, we saw his struggles against Cal. Coming up here, Mason Rudolph finds his open man, which he would set up an easy first down for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. J.W. Walsh comes into the game and he scores to extend the lead 14-3 for Oklahoma State. Coming up here, DJ Johnson takes the end around for a whole 9 yards, setting up a 2nd and short for the Longhorns. Now Tyrone Swoops got in the game here, gained 12 yards on a rushing attempt, and he would set up Nick Rose for his second field goal, 14-6, Texas down. And here in the second quarter, Mason Rudolph takes the ball. He starts to fumble it a little bit, and Hassan Ridgway is right there to pick it up, and he takes it all the way to the house, cutting the lead 14-13 for Texas. And of course, the Longhorns are excited, gaining some momentum there. But Mason Rudolph isn't baffled by it. He sets up, he finds his open man Glidden there for an easy first down. And he would also then, Walsh would find a short pass, set up his field goal for his kicker, extending the lead 17-13. Now Jonathan Gray was very limited, but on this play he rushes for a whole 42 yards and gained the Longhorns in Oklahoma State territory. And coming up here, Swoops once again, he barrels into the end zone, and the Horns are up 20-17, and that is where it would go at the halftime. J.W. Walsh and the Cowboys offense was stopped on 3 downs, but Walsh would find his open man, Jeremy Seaton, and he would take the lead 24-20 Cowboys. Now coming up here, Mason Rudolph gets a little cocky finding his man, but freshman Holton Hill is right there to pick off the pass, and he will go all the way. Touchdown, Texas, 27-24. Mason Rudolph, he sets up to pass, but Dylan Haynes is right there to pick it off at the end of the third quarter. Texas is still up 27-24. Now in the fourth, Texas offense struggled, and at this point the game is tied up. Hurd is sacked. Texas tries to punt, but Oklahoma State has great field position, and they would go on to win 30-27.
And we are fortunate that College Press Box's very own Mark School Jr. was able to provide more insight from the game.
Heartbreak. It has been the common theme as of late for the Texas Longhorns football team after Texas suffered another preventable loss to the Oklahoma State Cowboys due to a mishandled punt by true freshman Michael Dixon with less than a minute left to go in regulation.
You know, the amazing thing about this game, it is a game of life, and you just got to learn how when you get knocked down, you got to be able to pick yourself up. You look at 2 straight weekends and 2 straight Saturdays that, you know, you had it right there in your hands, and let it slip away from us.
It's just always really disappointing to come out there and play as hard as we played and as hard as we fought. We just kind of have a game back and forth, and then at the end we just couldn't finish. So, really frustrating.
You come out and lose 2 games like that, but you just got to go back to the drawing board and just keep pushing, just keep working hard.
While 2 devastating losses might seem to hurt the Longhorns' mental psyche, the Longhorns are 100% positive they won't fold up down the stretch due to their strong passion for the game.
They bring energy. And that's what we need on the field. I mean, as long as you bring in that juice, the energy, all the excitement, energy, and passion, that's what defense is all about.
We got a good football team. And, you can look at us and see 1-3 team, but, that's not where we are, and that's not where we're anywhere close to going to be at the end of the season.
The Texas Longhorns let another game slip right out of their hands, suffering their 2nd straight heartbreaking loss in a row. While their record stands at 1-3, the Longhorns are 4 points away from being 3-1 after suffering a heartbreaking loss last week against Cal by only 1 point and today to Oklahoma State by 3. The only thing Texas can do at this point is to keep their heads up and move on to TCU. For College Press Box, I'm Mark Skoll Jr.
Well, folks, don't go anywhere because when we come back, we are talking more Texas football. Don't go anywhere. This is College Press Box. Folks, thanks for sticking with us on College Press Box. We welcome to the studio tonight football analyst, the one and only Lauren Barash. Lauren, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. Now, we're ready to get talking some Texas football. Coach Strong has talked numerous times about players stepping up and making plays. However, in their first Big 12 game, Texas had 16 penalties for 128 yards. There were some questionable calls, particularly on defensive tackle Poona Ford for holding on a run play, and then Coach Strong receiving an unsportsmanlike contact. With so many flags against Texas, did the officiating cost Texas the game? What do you think, Lauren?
Well, I don't think you can blame the loss entirely on the referees. There were definitely some calls that were far-fetched, to say the least. Texas just could not catch a break. The Longhorns, like you said, had 16 penalties for 128 total yards. These penalties included 2 nullified touchdowns, which obviously could have helped them pad their lead at the beginning, and a called back interception. One of the nullified touchdowns was due to a holding penalty, and if you look back to the game broadcast, the announcers could not find a hold anywhere in the replays. Then later, a J.W. Walsh fumble where 3 Texas defenders fell on the ball, and the officials said nobody had clear possession after they went back and watched that play. The worst call of the game came late in the 4th quarter against tackle Poona Ford, as you said. He was flagged for defensive holding on a run play. You heard me right, defensive holding on a run. Coach Strong said he has never heard that called in his entire coaching career. That penalty was, of course, followed by Strong's unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. And sure, it's true that Strong got very heated on the sideline after that call. But again, if you look back at the footage, the ref bumps into Charlie and then throws the flag. A lot of questionable stuff happening there. And again, there were undoubtedly a lot of deserved penalties on Texas, but some of these questionable calls made a huge impact on the game in favor of the Cowboys.
All right, what do you think, Matt?
I definitely think the penalties cost Texas in some areas, like Lauren pointed out. The interception that freshman Devontae Davis should have had, the fumble there, that there were 3 Longhorns and Walsh is apparently on the ball. So those things did hurt Texas, but in the end, when you have the unsportsmanlike penalty against Coach Strong, you're going to get heated in that moment. Players are going to lose their emotions, but you got to keep it in check. And this is not a program like in Alabama where somebody like a Nick Saban could blow up, and he's got championships to back it up.
No,
so Coach Strong is not in that position to do that in the least.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now here is what Coach Strong himself had to say about the penalties.
I'm not exactly for sure on that, Ryan. I just, officials officiate and coaches coach, and we just got to do a better job. It's, it wasn't their outcome that, where they had an effect on that game. We just got to do a better job.
Fans thought Texas was finished trying to use a 2-quarterback system. However, Hurd looked anything but the word this weekend, and Soups managed to make some positive things happen with his legs. Lauren, what are the coaches thinking with this decision? Is it a big deal, or are the coaches trying to spare Hurd from some of the hits he's taken this season?
Well, I will be the first to admit that I was pretty scared when I saw Swoops run out onto the field on Saturday, but I can understand what the coaches are trying to do here. Hurd has only played 3 college football games, and at this point, other teams have enough film on him to know his strengths and weaknesses. They now expect his speed and quickness. So he was getting pursued and hit a lot more this past Saturday than in his first 2 games. I think it is good to send Swoops out there to run a little bit and change things up. One, it gives Hurd a break, but it also keeps Swoops active and part of this offense. You have to imagine that having the starting position taken away from him must have been a huge shot at Swoops' confidence. But now the coaches are giving him a chance to carry the ball a few times, and he even scored a touchdown on one of his 3 snaps on Saturday. I think the coaches allowing him to get some kind of playing time is a smart decision. Offensive variety is always a good thing, and at the end of the day, it keeps both quarterbacks happy.
I absolutely agree. I felt like seeing Swoops out there probably helped boost his confidence a little bit just for even playing. Matt, what do you think also?
Yeah, definitely a boost of confidence for him. But one thing going forward for Gerard Hurd, he's already taken a lot of shots, not only against Rice, Cal, but Oklahoma State here. And going into conference, it's going to be tough because going up against teams like TCU, OU, even Kansas State, they know what his strength is, and that's running the ball and trying to make something crazy back there happen. So they're going to key on him and put 9, 10 guys in the box and dare him to throw it. So he's going to be taking shots possibly going forward, and if they can spare him a few plays, you know, hopefully that helps him.
I agree, because, I mean, the last thing we need is our starting quarterback out. So offensively, UT did not see the same attack as the previous week against Cal. Hurd looked human, and so did the rest of the offense. Lauren, are there any positives the Longhorns can take away from this game?
I actually do think there are positives that they can take from this game. It's very unfortunate that, once again, last-minute mistakes overshadowed a performance filled with really big, nice plays. If you take a step back, this Texas team is much better than the team we saw last year and much more exciting. The team has scored 30-plus points in the last 3 games, putting up numbers that have been vacant from the DKR scoreboard for a long time. The run defense in particular looked significantly better than it has at any other point in this season. The defense held Oklahoma State to 103 yards rushing on 46 carries. None of the 3 Cowboys running backs averaged more than 3.2 yards per carry, which is very impressive. Additionally, junior defensive tackle Hassan Ridgway had a great performance, including a fumble recovery for a 34-yard touchdown. And then later, Texas added its 2nd defensive touchdown of the game when freshman cornerback Holton Hill ran the ball back 45 yards for a pick-6. Although the defense has admittedly had its hiccups, they had an incredible 4th quarter and gave Texas a good opportunity to win that game. They held the Cowboys to 26 yards on 14 plays in the 4th quarter. For the first time this season, they looked pretty dominant.
And what do you think about that question also, Matt?
It starts with a defense right now. We've been talking about freshman Malik Jefferson, him possibly leading this team, but we finally saw other guys step up. We saw freshman Holton Hill get in there and make some big plays. Chris Boyd, Dylan Haynes stepped up, but it was great to see Hassan Ridgway, defensive tackle. He's a junior now. He looked good last year with Malcolm Brown along his side. Kind of struggled here adjusting to life without Malcolm Brown, but he definitely was very disruptive against that Oklahoma State offensive line, and maybe we'll see going forward what else he can provide for this Texas team.
Well, Coach Strong names the positive takeaways from the freshmen against Oklahoma State.
With the young players, they can, you know, they're not afraid of their ability, and they're going to go up there and challenge a wide receiver, and they're you know, if it needs to be man up, you know, bump coverage, they'll play bump. They need to back off, they'll back off. But it's more of us just making plays on defense and just playing together and playing well and playing hard.
All right, guys, heading into this weekend's game against TCU, many would have predicted the Horned Frogs to run over the Horns at home. With TCU struggling to find their right defense unit with the one and only returning starter and Heisman hopeful Trayvon Boykin having to force plays, what does Texas need to do to improve, and how can Texas prepare for a potential upset? Lauren, what do you think?
Well, like you said, TCU will definitely be a challenge. We all know Trayvon Boykin is a huge threat and can make big plays when he needs to, as we saw with their close win against Tech this past weekend. The Horned Frogs have been one of the most prolific offenses this season, scoring 23, 70, 56, and 55 points in their 4 contests so far. TCU is averaging 636.5 yards per game as well. So the Longhorns' pass defense needs to step up big time if they want to make this game close. However, the TCU defense has been plagued with a lot of injuries and hasn't been able to stop anyone consistently. It may only take a few stops to put the Horned Frogs in a pretty big hole. Now, as far as Texas is concerned, the run game has to improve. Jonathan Gray only had 55 yards on Saturday, and that was the most of anybody on the offense. Sadly, Gray has not been the same running back since his Achilles injury 2 years ago. The coaches are rightfully resistant to run Hurd too much, so the running backs really need to step up. And then the biggest issue still is obviously special teams. We all know freshman punter Michael Dixon mishandled a snap before shanking a punt at the end of the game, which set up the eventual loss. Special teams needs consistency to help this team succeed. The Longhorns know these mistakes won't cut it. They need to be as good in the last minutes of the game as they are going into the half. It's all about fundamentals and consistency. The Horns need to play mistake-free football if they want to win in Fort Worth on Saturday.
Matt?
This is not the same TCU team we had predicted going into the season, but this game for TCU means so much more in many ways than it does for Texas. Trayvon Boykin, he's trying to get TCU to that prize spot of getting him to the college playoffs, but also his own Heisman. He's got a lot at stake here, and TCU has a lot to prove in of itself. Coach Patterson is already 2-1 against Texas since joining the Big 12. That one loss was at home a couple of years back, so you know he's going to be fired up, keen on this Texas team. He's going to take advantage of the weakness of this offensive line, and he's really going to find ways to shut down Texas.
Absolutely. Now, although Texas lost against Oklahoma State and it was tough for the Horns, Coach Strong is ready to move forward and face TCU this Saturday.
A one-game season. Just hey, let's just go get ready for TCU. It's on the road, and you know what? When you go on the road, we know they have an unbelievable team, but we have to go play well. And we're going to have to play in all 3 phases: offense, defense, and the special teams. And that's the only way. And we're going to have to play above our heads to beat this team. So it's a challenge for us, and I know we've improved over the last 2 weeks, but now let's go take another step and see if we can continue to get better.
All right, Lauren, based on what you've seen, what is your score prediction for the TCU-Texas game on Saturday?
Texas is the type of team that loves a challenge. When they play a team they are projected to lose against, they step up even more than usual. However, I do think the Horned Frogs are a little too dominant for this Texas team right now. I say it turns out to be 45-31 in TCU's favor.
Thank you, Lauren, for your fantastic analysis, as always. And keep it real here, folks. Keep it here, folks, not keep it real. When we return, we will serve up some volleyball and tennis action. Don't go anywhere. This is College Press Box.
You're watching College Press Box, and thanks for sticking with us on your Monday night. Now, despite Texas football struggle to win their first Big 12 game, Texas volleyball swept TCU in its Big 12 home opener last Wednesday. Senior Amy Neal and junior Chiaka Obagu lit it up once again, combining for 31 kills. Now, Paulina Prieto Sarami had a career-high 444 hitting average.
After defeating TCU in their Big 12 season opener, Texas volleyball traveled to Morgantown for their first conference road conference game against West Virginia. The Horns swept the Mountaineers in 3 sets this past Friday. Freshman Yasmin Bedard-Honey posted a career high of 7 kills in 10 attempts and no errors. Sophomore Kat McCoy led in digs, finishing the game with a total of 16 digs for her 9th straight match in double-digit digs. The Longhorns are 12-1 on the season and 2-0 in conference play.
Texas soccer also traveled to Morgantown this weekend to face number 5 West Virginia, but came up short, losing 2-0. The Mountaineers outshot the Longhorns 31-5, and those 2 first-half goals killed the Longhorns. Now, senior goalie Abby Smith had 10 saves and extended her total to 57 in conference play.
And the track and Texas cross country participated in their second race of the season at Texas A&M Invitational. Both the men and women came away with wins. The men's had 5 runners in the top 11 of the 8,000-meter race, and senior Brad Turnbull finished 3rd overall, securing victory for the Horns. The women won first place with 87 points, but Missouri finished close behind in second with 92 points. Texas cross country is back in action this upcoming Friday, where they host their home final meet of the season.
Women's tennis traveled to Houston this weekend to participate in the Rice Invitational. Now, senior Brianna Addison and Danny Waglin participated in the doubles and won it all in the final match, 6-1. Addison was supposed to participate in singles, but that was rained out due to weather, of course. Now, coming up here this weekend, Texas women's tennis will have to prepare for the ITA All-American Tournament in Los Angeles. Addison and Waglin will participate in the doubles, and Addison will once again try to compete in singles.
Men's tennis set 3 competitors to the elimination round to the Porsche Napa Valley Tennis Classic in California this past weekend, but Texas fell just short of the finals on Sunday. Senior Michael Richmond swept victory against Baylor's Jimmy Binkert in 3 sets to reach the shootout round, but Cal's Florin Lakat defeated Richmond in the first round 10-8. Texas men's tennis will compete in its annual ITA All-American Championships next Saturday in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so after the break, we will discuss the pro golf richest player and the new UT Hall of Famers.
Glad you could stick with us here at College Press Box on your Monday night. Despite falling short for the Grand Slam on the PGA Tour, Jordan Spieth bounced back this weekend with an incredible day of putting in the final round at the Tour Championship. This 22-year-old Texan became golf's first $22 million man, consisting of $12 million in prize money and $10 million bonus from the FedEx Cup. Now, along with the FedEx Cup, Spieth won a total 5 times during this season, making him the youngest player since Horton Smith in 1929 to have 5 wins and take the FedEx Cup in the same season.
Texas Athletics announced the 2015 Men's and Women's Hall of Honor classes this past summer, and on September 25th, the 13 distinguished and decorated former University of Texas student athletes were inducted. The 16th Longhorn Women's Hall of Honors class includes athletes such as 3-time Olympic medalist Julia Cuthbert Flynn. She ran track from 1983 to 1986, where she led Texas to 2 NCAA team titles. And 2-sport athlete Destiny Hooker helped the Longhorns to the 2006 NCAA indoor team title and led the 2009 volleyball team to the championship game. In the 59th Men's Hall of Honor class includes Vince Young, who played quarterback for the Horns from 2003 to 2005. Young led UT to the 2005 National Championship. Track star and defensive back Michael Huff was also honored. He was UT's first ever Jim Thorpe Award winner and named the defensive MVP of the 2005 championship game.
And coming up this weekend on Friday, softball will take on Howard Community College at 5 o'clock. Soccer will travel to Kansas and play at 7 o'clock. And also this weekend, track and field will participate in the Longhorn Invitational. Saturday, however, football will travel to TCU, and that game can be seen at 11 o'clock on ABC. Volleyball will play here at home against Iowa State at 7 p.m. And, of course, check it out on Longhorn Network.
So, some more things going on in Texas sports. We have Saturday through Sunday, the men's and women's tennis will play at the ITA All-American Championship. And on Sunday, you can catch soccer at Oklahoma State at 1 p.m. And on Sunday through Tuesday, you can catch the women's golf at the Jim West Invitational and the men's golf at the Nike Golf Collegiate Invitational. Before we go, let's check out some creative Twitter action from Texas football secondary coach Chris Vaughn. He surely came up with some clever ways to get around the NCAA recruiting rules on social media. Let's throw up some of our favorite tweets. So we got these two here with a shark and a dragon. So what players do you think that Coach Vaughn is talking to with these recruits?
Well, I know for the Dragons, he's going after some guys at South Lake Carroll there. We already have a defensive back committed named Obi Ebo, and of course his teammate that everybody wants is athlete little Jordan Humphrey, and so that's where I believe Coach Vaughn's going here.
Well, I guess he just has this animal kingdom phenomenon going here at this Twitter, but I like it. Let's creative and keep
absolutely.
it coming.
If he can attract some players here, I don't have any problems.
Why not? So, Matt, let's talk about some score predictions for this weekend's getting TCU. What do you got?
So I have TCU winning it 35-20. Yes, Nick Rose will hopefully make 2 field goals here. Texas, this is going to be a tough task going to Amon Carter Stadium and playing TCU. This is an offensive team that is loaded. Yes, I know they have some injuries on offense, but between Aaron Green, Heisman hopeful Trayvon Boykin, and wide receiver Josh Doxson, who Texas wasn't able to stop at all last year, and not many teams in the country can. So it's going to be a long day for the Horns.
I agree. It's going to be a tough one, but hey, college upsets, football, you never know. But, you know, folks, thank you so much for being with us here on College Press Box. Tune in to College Press Box every Monday at 9 p.m. and College Crossfire on Wednesday at 9 p.m. with your one and only Reese Miller as your host. You can follow us on Twitter at College Press Box. For everyone in the studio, Master Control, Matt, and myself, have a lovely night.